My name is Caroline Whitmore. I'm 34 years old. For most of my life, I believed family was something you protected, no matter how badly they hurt you. I believed loyalty meant staying, forgiving, making excuses, handing people another chance, even after they'd already shown you exactly who they were. I was wrong. The moment I finally understood that happened on Christmas Day. It started with dessert. My niece Emma looked directly at my daughter Ava and smiled. Not a sweet smile, not a child's innocent grin, a knowing smile. Then she said loud enough for everyone at the table to hear, "Only the special grandkids get dessert." The room went quiet for half a second. Then everyone laughed. My mother laughed. My father laughed. My younger sister Kelly smirked into her wineglass. Plates carrying pie, cookies, and cake began moving around the table, skipping Ava completely. My daughter sat perfectly still. The thing that still haunts me is that she didn't look confused. She looked familiar with it, like she'd heard things like that before, like she'd already learned her place in that room. That realization hurt more than anything, because it meant this wasn't new. It meant she'd been noticing for years while I kept pretending everything was fine. I looked around the table. Nobody seemed uncomfortable. Nobody corrected Emma. Nobody told Ava she belonged. Not one person. I stood up quietly. No speech. No argument. No dramatic scene. I helped my son put on his shoes. Then I took Ava's hand. "Come on, sweetheart." She stood immediately, almost too quickly, as if she'd been waiting for permission to leave. My boyfriend Ethan stayed behind for a few minutes. He thought leaving suddenly might create more drama. Later, he admitted he was wrong. The drive home was silent. Ava sat by the window holding a tiny snow globe, a cheap little gift Ethan's parents had given her the week before. To her, it was treasure. She stared at the swirling snow inside without saying a word. I kept glancing at her through the mirror, waiting for questions, waiting for tears. They never came. That somehow made everything worse. When we got home, I tucked both children into bed. Ava hugged the snow globe against her chest. For a second, I almost asked what she was thinking, but I was afraid of the answer. So I kissed her forehead and turned off the light. Hours later, I sat alone on the edge of my bed staring at the wall. Ethan eventually walked in. He sat beside me. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Then he said something I never forgot. "After you left, nobody even stopped eating." I looked at him. "They didn't ask where you went." Something inside me cracked. Not dramatically, not loudly, just quietly, like ice finally giving way after years of pressure. That night my phone buzzed. A message from Dad. "We need the money by tomorrow." Nothing else. No mention of Christmas. No mention of Ava. No apology. No concern. Just a demand. Like I was still their emergency fund. Like my daughter hadn't been humiliated in front of everyone a few hours earlier. I stared at the screen. Memories started surfacing. Birthdays, where Ava received noticeably smaller gifts. School events nobody attended. Family photos, where someone always forgot to call her over. The dozens of times I defended her only to be told I was overreacting. I typed slowly. "Not my family. Not my problem." Then I hit send. 2 minutes later, my phone exploded. Message after message. Notification after notification. My mother accused me of ruining Christmas. Kelly said I loved creating drama. Dad called me selfish. Ungrateful. Disrespectful. I scrolled through the family group chat. Photo after photo appeared from dinner. Children opening presents. Grandparents smiling. Everyone celebrating. Ava wasn't visible in a single picture. Not one. I left the group chat. Then I blocked every single one of them. For the first time in my life, I wasn't angry. I was exhausted. That night I barely slept. Not because I doubted my decision, because I couldn't stop seeing Ava's face. The next morning, Ethan left early for work. I spent hours cleaning just to stay busy. Coffee, laundry, vacuuming, anything to stop thinking. Around breakfast, Ava wandered into the kitchen wearing oversized pajama pants and carrying the snow globe. She sat across from me, quiet, then asked softly, "Are we going back to Grandma's house?" I swallowed hard. "No." She nodded immediately, like she'd already expected that answer. Around 11, there was pounding at the front door. Not knocking, pounding. I looked through the peephole. My mother. I opened the door halfway. She shoved it fully open and walked inside. "No, hello." No concern for the children. No apology. Her first words were, "You embarrassed your father." I stared at her, then calmly told her exactly what happened at that table. How Ava had been treated. How no child should ever feel unwanted by their own family. She didn't deny any of it. Instead, she shrugged. Ava is too sensitive. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She continued. Emma was joking. Then came the familiar accusations. I'd always been difficult. Always emotional. Always looking for reasons to be offended. The words felt rehearsed, like she'd been preparing them the entire drive over. Then she stepped closer, and before I could react, she slapped me. Quick, sharp, humiliating. The sound echoed through the room. For one stunned second, neither of us moved. Then another voice spoke behind her. What the hell just happened? My blood ran cold. Ethan. He had forgotten his wallet and come back home. And he had seen everything. Ethan moved between us so fast my mother barely had time to step back. His face had gone completely still. Not angry, not shouting, just dangerously calm. What happened? He asked again. Neither of us answered immediately. The red mark on my cheek answered for me. My mother crossed her arms. As usual, she's exaggerating everything. Ethan didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed on me. When I nodded once, confirming what he had seen, something shifted in his expression. He walked to the front door, opened it, and pointed outside. You are never coming back into this house. My mother laughed nervously. You don't get to tell me. Leave. The single word stopped her. For the first time in my life, I watched someone refuse to be intimidated by her. She glanced between us, realizing neither of us was backing down. Then she muttered something about me destroying the family and stormed out. The second the door closed, the house felt different. Lighter. As if a window had finally been opened after years in a suffocating room. Ethan wrapped his arms around me. I hadn't even realized I was shaking. The slap hadn't hurt much physically, but emotionally it felt like the final confirmation of everything I already knew. They truly believed they were entitled to me. My time, my money, my loyalty, even my silence. That afternoon I sat on Ava's bed. She was coloring quietly. The snow globe sat beside her, like it always did. I told her we weren't going to spend time with Grandma and Grandpa anymore. She listened carefully. Then she asked the question that shattered me. Did I do something wrong? I felt my chest tighten. No, sweetheart. But Emma doesn't like me. The certainty in her voice hurt worse than the slap. I took both her hands. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why do they always act like that? I couldn't tell her the truth. Not all of it. Not that some adults were so consumed by favoritism and selfishness that they couldn't see the damage they caused. So I told her something simpler. Sometimes people don't know how to love properly. She thought about that, then nodded, as if she understood more than any child should. That evening my phone buzzed again. Kelly, Mom's a mess. Dad hasn't spoken all day. I almost ignored it. Then, another message appeared. They're having serious money problems. There it was. The real reason. Not guilt. Not reconciliation. Money. Always money. I read as Kelly explained that refinancing had fallen through. Debt was piling up. Payments were overdue. The situation was becoming desperate. Finally she wrote, "They need you." I stared at those words for a long time. Then replied, "You watched what happened to Ava. You said nothing. If you're still protecting them after that, that's your choice. Don't ask me to." She responded almost immediately. "They're still our parents." I deleted the conversation. No argument, no explanation, just silence. For years, I'd mistaken silence for weakness. Now it felt like strength. The next day, around lunchtime, I received a message from my cousin Melissa, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. She lived mostly outside the family drama, close enough to observe, far enough away to stay sane. Her message contained screenshots, dozens of them. The family group chat, the one I'd left. I opened the images. My stomach turned. Dad had written, "She's always had an attitude problem." Mom replied, "She'll come crawling back." Kelly added, "Give it a week. She can't survive without us." Then came the line that made me physically ill. My mother wrote, "That little girl is already becoming just like her mother." That little girl. Not Ava. Not her granddaughter. That little girl. Melissa explained they didn't realize she was still in the group. She'd stayed silent and taken screenshots. She thought I deserved to know. I thanked her, then sat staring at the messages, waiting to feel something. Enge, sadness, Rage. Instead, I felt almost nothing. And that scared me, because it meant I was finally letting go. That same afternoon, Ava came into my room carrying a backpack. I'm packing early. For what? Our trip to Grandma Linda's, Ethan's mother. The other grandmother. The one who actually remembered Ava's favorite color. The one who displayed every drawing Ava made. The one who never forgot birthdays. Ava carefully packed her sparkly sneakers, her favorite dress, a stack of drawings she wanted to show them. They always put my pictures on the fridge. I smiled, then quickly turned away before she noticed the tears forming in my eyes. That evening, an unknown number appeared on my phone. Caroline, it's your father. Call me. This isn't a game. I deleted it. A few hours later, there was another knock on the door. This time, it was Kelly. She stood on the porch looking exhausted. Her hair was messy. Dark circles sat beneath her eyes. For a brief moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I need 5 minutes. I didn't invite her inside. She remained on the porch. They're in serious trouble. I said nothing. The bank is calling constantly. Still nothing. The house could be gone. Finally, I asked, "Why are you telling me this?" Her answer came immediately. "Because you're the only one who can fix it." There it was again. The same assumption. The same expectation. As if my entire purpose in life was rescuing them. Why? She looked genuinely confused. "What do you mean, why? Why do you think I should help them?" Kelly blinked. Because in her mind, the answer was obvious. Because you always do. The words hung between us. Suddenly I understood something. They had never mistaken my kindness for love. They had mistaken it for obligation. I was useful, reliable, predictable. And now that usefulness had disappeared. That was the emergency. Not me. Not Ava. Not the family. Control. Kelly's voice softened. If they lose everything, I lose everything too. That was new. I asked what she meant. She hesitated. Then admitted she'd co-signed refinance paperwork the previous year. A decision our parents had convinced her was perfectly safe. Now she was trapped too. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. But even then, she never apologized. Never mentioned Ava. Never acknowledged Christmas. The only crisis that mattered was financial. I gently told her to leave. She stood there another minute, then walked away. That night, Ethan came home late. I showed him the screenshots, the messages, the visit from Kelly. He read everything quietly, then looked at me. You know why they're panicking, right? I already suspected, but I wanted to hear him say it. They don't miss you. The words hurt, even though I knew they were true. They miss access to you. I sat there staring at the kitchen table. They lost their favorite tool. For years I'd been the fixer, the peacekeeper, the daughter who always folded, the daughter who always paid, the daughter who always came back. Now they were discovering what happened when that daughter finally walked away. The next morning, another message arrived from Dad. "Let's meet face to face. We can fix this." Fix what? The debt? The house? The refinancing disaster? Because nobody seemed interested in fixing what happened to Ava. Nobody wanted to talk about the humiliation, or the exclusion, or the slap. Only the money. That evening, after the children were asleep, Ethan and I sat together in the kitchen. The house was quiet. Only the refrigerator hummed softly in the background. Eventually he asked, "If you gave them the money, what do you think would happen?" I already knew, but I answered honestly. They'd survive. And then? I stared into my coffee. Then I saw it clearly. Christmas next year. Another table. Another insult. Another excuse. Another demand. Nothing would change. Ethan nodded. As soon as they're stable, they'll pretend none of this happened. He was right. And deep down, I had always known it. The next afternoon, Kelly came back. No warning. No embarrassment. No apology. This time she arrived carrying a folder. A thick one. She placed it carefully on the patio table and opened it like she was presenting a business proposal. Spreadsheets. Payment schedules. Interest rates. Bank notices. Highlighted deadlines. She had clearly spent hours preparing it. "If you cover one loan," she said, sliding papers toward me. Just one. It'll buy them enough time to refinance everything else. I didn't even look at the numbers. Kelly kept talking, explaining percentages, timelines, penalties, how close they were to losing the house. Then she said something that almost made me laugh. If you help them, they'll finally understand everything you've done for them. Finally understand. After 34 years. After every sacrifice. After every excuse. After what happened to Ava. She still believed gratitude was right around the corner. I looked up at her, then asked a single question. What if Ava had done it? Kelly frowned. What? What if my daughter stood up at Christmas and looked at Emma and said, "Only the special cousins get dessert"? Silence. I continued. What would you have done? Kelly looked away. I waited. No answer came. Because we both knew exactly what would have happened. Ava would have been punished immediately. Lectured. Corrected. Called disrespectful. The rules had always been different. Emma was protected. Ava was tolerated. That was the truth nobody wanted to say out loud. Kelly finally sighed. That's not the same thing. It is exactly the same thing. She rubbed her forehead. For the first time she looked tired rather than defensive. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Because she had grown up inside the same family system I had. The difference was that she benefited from it. I spent years paying the price. This isn't about money, I said quietly. It never was. She didn't argue. Maybe because deep down she knew I was right. Or maybe because she was finally realizing she couldn't manipulate me anymore. Either way, she gathered her papers, closed the folder, and left. That night, another message arrived from my mother. Just one sentence. You've turned your back on us. When you need us, don't bother calling. I stared at the screen, then deleted it. No response. No anger. No sadness. Just done. Later that evening, I sat on my bed, scrolling through photos. I stopped on one of Ava. She was laughing so hard, her eyes were squeezed shut. Pure joy. No hesitation. No insecurity. No fear of being excluded. And suddenly I started crying. Not because I was heartbroken. Because I was proud. For the first time in my life, I had chosen my child over family expectations. The following days were strangely quiet. No surprise visits. No angry messages. No guilt trips. Nothing. The silence felt unfamiliar. Growing up, silence from my parents always meant punishment. Now it felt like peace. A locked door finally staying closed. The first thing I noticed was Ava. She seemed lighter. Happier. Not dramatically. Just naturally. She stopped asking about my parents. Stopped checking the mailbox. Stopped wondering when we'd see them again. Children notice more than adults realize. And children heal faster when the hurt finally stops. That weekend, we visited Ethan's parents. The moment Ava walked through the front door, Ethan's mother swept her into a huge hug. There's my favorite artist. Ava immediately pulled out her drawings. His mother gasped dramatically at every single one, then taped them all across the refrigerator, one beside another, like an art gallery, just as Ava had promised. Ethan's father was waiting in the living room. He'd somehow dug out an old wooden train set from storage, even though my son had mostly outgrown it. He claimed he was testing it. Nobody believed him. The children spent hours playing anyway. Not once did Ethan's parents ask about my family. Not once. They didn't need details. They saw enough in Ava's smile. Enough in the way she relaxed there. Enough in the way I finally relaxed too. That evening, we sat around the fireplace drinking hot chocolate. Ava leaned against my shoulder, then whispered, "I like it better here." I kissed the top of her head. "So do I." A few days later, an email arrived. The sender's name looked familiar. My father's cousin, a relative I hadn't seen since I was a teenager. Curious, I opened it. The message was short. "Caroline, I heard there are problems in the family. I don't know everything that's happened, but your father mentioned you've cut contact. I just wanted to tell you something. You don't owe anyone your peace, especially people who gamble with it. You're not wrong for protecting your children. Take care of yourself." I read it 3 times, then a 4th, then a 5th, because it was the first time anyone from that side of the family had ever suggested I might not be the problem. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The words had already done what they needed to do. A week later, Kelly tried one final time. Not directly. Through a mutual friend. Apparently she wanted to meet for coffee. No drama. Just talk. I declined. Because I already knew what the conversation would be. No apology. No accountability. Just another attempt to wrap guilt inside nostalgia. And I was done accepting that package. A month passed. Then another. Life settled. The children laughed more. The house felt calmer. I thought maybe the story was finally over. Then one afternoon an envelope arrived. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting instantly. My mother's. I stared at it for several minutes before opening it. Inside were 4 pages. Front and back. I read every word. Not because I wanted to. Because I needed confirmation. And she gave it to me. The letter wasn't an apology. Not even close. It was an inventory. A list of everything she'd ever done for me. The years she let me stay at home. The money she'd loaned me. The babysitting. The favors. The sacrifices. Page after page. A ledger. As though parenthood were a transaction. As though love came with receipts. What struck me most wasn't what she wrote. It was what she didn't write. No mention of Ava. No mention of Christmas. No mention of the slap. No mention of the humiliation. No mention of the years of favoritism. Nothing. The final paragraph read, "You don't erase blood, Caroline. One day your children will turn on you too. Then you'll understand how we feel." I folded the letter carefully, placed it inside a drawer, not because I wanted to keep it, because I wanted a reminder of exactly what I had walked away from, and exactly what my children would never be taught to accept. That evening I stood in the backyard watching Ava and her brother play. They were laughing about something neither Ethan nor I could hear. The setting sun painted everything gold. Ethan stepped outside, carrying 2 mugs of tea. He handed one to me, then nodded toward the house. "Another letter?" "Yeah." He smiled slightly. "Want me to burn it?" I laughed. The first real laugh I'd had in a long time. "No." "Why not?" I took a sip of tea. "Let it sit there." He raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because it's just an old bill." I watched my children run across the yard, Ava's laughter floating through the evening air. "A bill I'm never paying." Ethan smiled, then slipped his hand into mine. We stood there together as the sun disappeared behind the fence. For the first time in years, nothing inside me felt tense. No guilt, no dread, no obligation, just certainty. I don't know what happened to my parents after that. I heard rumors. The financial situation got worse. The house may have been sold. There were arguments, blame, excuses. Probably my name came up often. Maybe they still tell people I'm selfish. Maybe they still tell the story where I'm the villain. That's fine. Let them. I gave them decades. They gave my daughter silence. That's the exchange. And I can live with it. Because Ava gets something better. She gets a childhood where love isn't earned. Where affection isn't ranked. Where nobody decides her worth based on a dessert plate at Christmas dinner. And where her mother finally stopped saving a seat at the table for people who never intended to save one for her. There was no reconciliation. No emotional reunion. No miracle apology. The story ends exactly here. With a daughter who knows she belongs. A mother who finally remembers her own value. And a cycle that ends with us.